All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the weekly Roar. I've got my special guest here with me, John Wayne Mullins, and today we are talking about the law of awareness in our second week in the 15 weeks of the the invaluable laws of growth. So before we get started here, for those of you that are watching that don't know us, don't know me, my name's Greg Storch. I am the founder of Lion Enterprise, a leadership development and coaching company. I'm a member of the John Maxwell team, a certified speaker, coach, and trainer. I'm also a certified professional coach. And that's where the focus of my business is right now. So, like I said, I want to welcome John Wayne Mullins. John, yes, and that is his name. He goes by John Wayne. He's been on other talks with some of our other friends, fellow leaders and coaches. And we always talk about the name John Wayne. So anyway, John's with us. He is the founder of John Wayne Mullins Coaching and Training. He is also a John Maxwell team member, a certified speaker, coach, and trainer. He's a reserve officer in the Coast Guard. I think you're coming up, John, on 19 years in the service, right? So
one to go, yeah.
Yeah, one to go, man. And he is a newlywed, October of last year. So
Yes,
John was in Italy, where I currently live, and proposed, and now he's married. So congratulations, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the warm introduction. It's a joy anytime I can get to talk about leadership and growth with other like-minded people. It's just something I'm passionate about. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you could take time out of your busy schedule to join us. For some reason, I keep having issues with being able to see who's making the comments. Unfortunately, let's see. Maybe I can go over to.
I see our favorite friend Eric Reed is on the line.
There we go. And I see my cousin, Laverne. Laverne, thank you so much. So you guys, I don't want to waste your time. I think we're going to have a full 30 minutes going on here. So let's get started. Last week, I spoke with Eric G. Reed, a fellow coach, fellow leader, and we talked about the law of intentionality. So for those of you just jumping in on my growth series, I'm taking this from the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth from John C. Maxwell. So if you like what you're hearing, if this is starting to interest you and you're starting to pick up on some things from our conversations, grab a copy of this book. This is a little, I don't know, it's 1.25 inches thick. It's not a huge read. John Maxwell has a great writing style. It's a great read. He gives tons of quotes, personal stories, and examples of what he's talking about. But you can pick this up on Amazon for like 11 or 12 bucks. I highly recommend it. So worth spending just a few dollars. It will make the difference for you. Especially if you're starting or on a growth journey and you just need to refocus on that journey. So this week, I've invited yet another leader, coach, leader extraordinaire, I should say. John's got an extensive leadership background. And I've asked John to join me today to talk about the law of awareness. And John, this has personally touched John in his journey. And so that's why I wanted to have him come talk to us about this. So this is going to be really a discussion. Right. I'm not going to teach the book. I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to read you the chapter. We may pull some quotes that we like out from this book. But this is not a book study.
No,
this is us. A couple of guys, a couple of people that have experience in this area. And through our discussions, we are hoping that the audience gets a feeling and gets an idea of what the law of awareness can do for them in their personal growth journey. So the law of awareness, you have to know yourself to grow yourself. So I like to describe this law as it's like prepping to go on a trip, right? And the law of awareness is the big sign of you are here.
Right.
And before you can go anywhere, you have to know where you want to go. You know,
Right.
it's your direction in life, right, John?
Right. Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about this. I think I want to start out by having you share with our audience a little bit about actually your growth journey. Maybe not so much this law, but how did you get, in tune with needing to do some personal growth?
Wow, that's a great question, Greg. And one of the things that I kind of, when you sent me this question, I thought about this. And coming up through the ranks in the military, I noticed a trend in the people that I was supposed to be following. But as soon as the day was over, I didn't want to have anything to do with them. And I realized that if I wanted to be a leader of people, I needed to do something different. I needed to invest in myself and know who I am and know the message that I am sending to the people that I'm supposed to be following. So one of the things I always kind of like reflected on is, imagine if that leader or that boss or that person who's supposed to be in charge knew what everybody was saying about him or her. Would they be so much more of an effective leader? So that's where a lot of this kind of hits home for me is, I've had a number of leaders like that I wouldn't follow into anywhere. But if I ever had the chance to actually sit down and speak life into them, like, okay, this is why you're failing. This is why no one likes you. This is why nobody is following you, because your self-awareness is so low.
Yeah, so that's a great story. And now I can really see why the law of awareness really took on a big meaning for you in your journey.
Right.
You were living this.
Right. Absolutely. And, I like how John talks about you really do need to know yourself if you want to grow yourself. And it's so true. It's not just a catchy phrase, but it's so like, but, one of the things I think as coaches and people, often a question that I get is, okay, this sounds fun, but where do you start? Like, how do you get to know yourself?
Yeah. So those are great questions. And for those of you watching, if you've never read this book, this chapter contains 10 questions that you guys can ask yourselves. And we're going to get into that in a little bit on the discussion. But, it's interesting, John, because even last week when I was talking to Eric G. Reed about the law of intentionality, what interested him so much with that particular law was he was seeing it not being modeled. And here we are in week 2 talking about another law. And here you are telling me, your experience and why it resonated with you is for the same exact reason. You were not seeing it being displayed by the quote unquote leaders that you were following in the military.
Right.
That's an interesting observation.
It really is. It makes you question. It's like, what are today's leaders not getting? You and I and Eric, we are in a tribe of people who've had to learn the value of self-awareness. But before I actually read this book, I was like, oh my gosh, this is everything that I've been living,
I love it. Yeah, that's an important lesson to learn early on. I shared a little bit about my growth journey last week, but if you're just tuning in this week for the first time, I can summarize it. I was driving into work one morning. I'm listening to the ebook of the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, and I'm on chapter 1, and John's sharing a story about his personal growth plan. And it almost stopped me in my tracks because it really scared me, because I was thinking, man, I just like John Maxwell didn't know what a growth plan was, nor had one. I was in the same boat, and I was screeching up onto my 50th birthday. And so that really sparked an interest on, what is personal growth all about? Thank God I have this book to guide me through it. So I love it. Thanks for sharing that story with us about your growth journey. I love hearing that. So let's get into this chapter, the law of awareness. If you were going to, maybe there's somebody out there watching right now who has not read the book. And if so, how would you describe this chapter to somebody or how would you describe it?
Wow. I would describe this as a chapter that you probably need to read alone, where you cannot be distracted, and give yourself an hour just to go through the material. And then when you're done, sit and ask yourself some of these questions that are in these 10 questions in this chapter, and just reflect on them. It's like, and you will begin to learn, either if you're not where you're at, if you're not achieving what you want in life currently, if you're not doing the things that people are asking of you, or if you're not growing, these are some of the questions that are just going to stimulate that mindset in yourself, and just enough to get you thinking, okay, how can I grow? What do I need to become more aware of?
Well, we just got a comment from one of our viewers. John Wayne is a leader's leader. So that's awesome. So for those of you watching, listen to what John's telling you. That was a great description of what somebody might find when they do this. So when you started reading the book, how did this law, the law of awareness, impact you from a personal perspective?
Oh, I will tell you. So I'm a big fan of assessments, personal, like 360s. And when I first took my first assessment, I think it was, I don't even know which one it was, but it was one of them. And I sent it out to my boss, my superiors, my people, my subordinates, my friends, and I got feedback. And the way that this specific assessment worked was, you rank yourself in these categories, and then your peers rank you on the same categories. And so in areas where I marked myself high, I was like, oh, I'm good at that. I'm good at that. I'm good at that. They marked me low. And where I marked myself low, they marked me high. So that was just like, whoa. What are these results telling me? So yeah, I'm a big fan of awareness, because the assessments, those 360 feedbacks, those open the door to communication, to growth, and even that disconnect between who you think you are and who the people around you think you are.
Wow, that's
yeah.
That could be a real eye opener, right?
Oh yeah, I've coached people, and they was like, this isn't true, I hate this. But the reality is, when you send this out to 10 people and everybody's like, spot on, it's like, wow, I'm not who I think I am.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the 360 leadership assessments, or even the 360 assessments in general. I really believe that leaders should partake in those. And, I'd love for people who are watching right now, if you've ever participated in a 360 review, either for a leader or one for yourself that you've sent out to your constituents, I'd love to hear your comments. What do you think about the 360 review? And if you've ever had one, what was the eye opener for you when you got your results? Comment that in below. We'll go through the comments after the broadcast, and we'll put our thoughts on those too. But yeah, I'd love to hear that. The 360 review, it seems like that really didn't it didn't come into my awareness until the last few years that I started hearing about it a lot more frequently, but I had never seen that used in the past.
Right.
So it could be a scary tool for leaders to use
Oh,
because,
yeah.
yeah, right. You're going to be put under a microscope.
Well, even for the people in the John Maxwell team, they're familiar with DISC, and some people who may not be. It's kind of like the same thing. Is you are learning even your communication style. And one of the things that I took from DISC, it's a personality assessment. It tells you the way that you are communicating and who you are, who the people around you see you are. But the best ways to connect with other people who are not like you, sometimes you have to sit back and ask yourself, okay, well, why aren't I connecting with that person? It's because you don't have the awareness of how you are communicating to that person, and then vice versa. And so as the leader, it's your responsibility to change.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, you are now a certified DISC.
No, I'm not.
You have not. Okay. The John Maxwell team has offered that for John Maxwell team members to become DISC. If you're watching this and you've never had a DISC assessment, John's exactly right. It will assess your personality type, but the power in this assessment tool is it's about how you interact with other types, personality types, and it teaches you the proper ways to communicate with them effectively.
Right.
So,
and this ties right back to the chapter of you have to know yourself to grow yourself. So whether it's DISC, a 360, big fan of Strength Finders, and if Melanie Massey's on the line, I know she is too. She's my buddy. But it's taking that time just to get to know who are you, what are you good at, like how, and then learning how to apply that in your life, in your marriage, in your church, in your business, wherever you want, and it's like suddenly you'll start to perform better.
Exactly. And that's why I love this law, the law of awareness. And it's the second law he presents. Like,
right.
One, you got to be intentional because growth isn't just going to happen. And two, you got to know what you're working with. You got to know yourself to grow yourself. So, John, in this book, he actually talks, John Maxwell, actually, I've got two Johns going on here. John Maxwell, the author, actually presents us with three types of people regarding their direction in life.
Right.
So I'm gonna share these with you, and those of you watching, just listen to these three types of people, and I want you to ask yourself, where do you fall in these? So the first one is the people in there, with regards to the direction in life, they have no idea what they even want to do. Those people are usually just bebopping through life, and they're somewhat confused. Confusion is a great word to describe them.
Right.
The second type of person, you know what you want to do, but you're not doing it. Those people are frustrated. That was me. That was me 3 years ago.
Right.
When I finally realized I knew I wanted what I wanted to be doing, and I wasn't doing it.
Right.
And that's what led to my departure from corporate America. And then the third type of person regarding direction in life is that they know what they want to do and they're doing it. Right. And I would say for you and for me and for probably every one of the guests I'm going to have over the course of the next 14 weeks, we're all falling now in this category. And the word that describes these people is fulfilled.
Right.
So that's going to lead me into my next discussion point with you is how, this part of the self-discovery, the law of awareness, knowing who you are and trying to figure out, it begs the question, it prompts the thought about your passion and your purpose. And so I want to talk to you about, how did you find your passion and your purpose? And what was that like for you?
Oh, I'm going to be honest with you here, because I'm not going to put sugarcoat around this. It was not fun.
It's
Personal
not.
growth is not fun. But it's so important. It took me a while to really find my purpose, and even just write it down and write that out. It took me months and years, because I knew. So a little bit of backstory. I've got 19 years in the Coast Guard. I've been on and off active duty for 19 years. But then about 5 years ago, I went to become a consultant for the U.S. government, where I was hired as an internal coach and consultant to set up a coaching program for this agency. And it was fun. It opened the door to government work, it allowed me to really work with some very successful senior leaders. But I found myself not fulfilled. It's like, I really want to work with this type of person, or this type of company, or this motivated person who will take this and just run with it, instead of me just trying to convince them the value of personal growth. And so I knew that, and I started seeing areas of growth where I was passionate about, that I was giving some attention to. And in those areas, just like Paul Martinelli talked about in Think and Grow Rich, when you just take a step and focus on areas that just interest you, as you begin to go in those directions, you're going to find your purpose. And it's okay if you don't know right away. Like me, it took me several years to find it and be like, wow, I am really good at working with people and loving people and connecting and helping them. And what that has I joined the John Maxwell team, let's see, in 2013. It's taken me 6 years to really this is what I can do for you. This is what I do.
That's awesome.
But but I said, it hasn't been fun.
Yeah. You bring up a great point. Personal growth, growth may be becoming a buzzword. It may be becoming more popular, at least in the leadership circles, and people that are, growth minded folks would be, listening to this, but it's not sexy. It's actually scary, because it forces you to look at yourself, and it really forces you to ask some hard questions.
Oh yeah.
So, speaking of which, if you don't know what your passion or your purpose is, in the book, John provides a guide in this chapter 2, on the law of awareness, that will help people work through finding what their passion and their purpose is by working through those 10 questions. So again, I'm not going to read those to you. You get the book and you work through those if that's what's important to you. I just highly recommend it. But the reason that's important is because there is a direct connection between finding your passion and reaching your full potential. And that is what personal growth is all about. Right. It's about the journey to reach your full potential. John, last week, I participated in a leadership panel with another friend of mine, and they were talking about this. And I actually ended up saying that I ended up with a quote, actually. And my quote was, I said, without true passion and a sense of purpose, your full potential will remain unknown. And so I'm just going to say it again, without true passion and a sense of purpose, your full potential will remain unknown.
Right.
I'm not saying you'll never reach your potential. You could reach it, but your full potential, what you're fully capable of doing, will remain unknown. And I want to share, if you don't mind, I want to share a little personal story real quick.
Right.
About this, because the law of awareness and your passion and your purpose. In September of 2017, I resigned from corporate America, a very lucrative, high paying job. I mean, my annual bonuses were as much as some people make in a year. They were huge. And I was struggling because even though I was at the epitome of my career, financially and otherwise, I was the worst version of myself because I was miserable.
Right.
And I was miserable because I wasn't passionate about the industry in which I was working, which was IT.
Right.
Not to say I wasn't good at it, but I wasn't passionate about it. And the day I resigned, my boss, of course, gave me the obligatory, what can we do to help me to keep you? And that's when I came to the realization, as I'm standing at his desk, I say to him, listen, I look around this place and I see people who are passionate about this work. And that makes me feel terrible because I know I'm not. And when I know I'm not passionate about this, I'll never reach my full potential. And that's not fair to you, the company, or myself.
Right.
And he knew right then and there that there was no way I was staying with that company, that I was gonna jump and start my own business. And I did.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's my personal story. Hey, we're doing great on time. We're running up on the 30-minute mark. So I want to run through this and I want to give some time to talk about this. Let's see. From your own experience, John, what tips or advice would you give to people who are thinking into their purpose or trying to find their passion?
Find a mentor. Find a group of people that you give permission to speak into your life. You and I and Eric and another gentleman, we started this group. We're going through the Think and Grow Rich study, and we're holding each other accountable. I learned the value of a mentor several years ago because I was like, this is where I want to be, but sometimes I just need to talk and like allow people to help me hear what I think so I can have a different perspective. And it's so helpful. So a mentor, a mastermind group, a men's ministry, something that just helps you grow.
Yeah. Nice. I love it. Great advice.
Right.
You're exactly right, John. And this is why people are saying you're a leader of leaders right there. You know, one of my favorite sayings is, and I think it's in this chapter, they say there are two great days in a person's life: the day we're born and the day we discover why.
Right.
And this is exactly why I'm having this series, because I want to share this growth journey with you. I want to share this information with people. So let's wrap this up so I keep to my word and keep this at 30 minutes. The first thing I want to do is I want to talk about what you're doing, John. What's going on with your company? Where are you at in life, and what's new?
Like you said in the beginning of the call, I just got married in October, so I took about 6 months off. I came off active duty in August, and I just took that time to really get focused on who it is I am, because like you, I resigned from my government job to start my own business, and I'm finally at that point of knowing who my client is, who I want to work with, and now I'm looking for some people to kind of partner with. Because I've learned as an entrepreneur is that I'm not good at everything, but I'm much better in a team environment. And so my company is expanding, it's growing, but then also I'm looking for opportunities just to get myself plugged in.
I love it. So if somebody wants to reach out to you and talk to you a little more, maybe they're looking for a coach, what's a great way for people to get a hold of you?
JohnWayneMullins.com.
I love it. Yep. I love it. I'm going to type that in. JohnWayneMullins.com. How easy does that get?
And I give a free virtual cup of coffee to anybody.
You can't beat that deal. I love it. John, thanks. I appreciate that. And I really appreciate your insights today, talking about the law of awareness. Great insight from you. Appreciate you sharing your journey with us all. And thanks to all of you who joined to watch today. I truly appreciate your support. I'm going to be back here again next week, same place, same time, with another rising star in the leadership community, who's making a huge impact in the Hispanic community with his message and his teachings on this very book. He is definitely an expert on personal growth journeys. His name is Miziel Diaz. He's going to join me from the Dallas, Texas area to talk about the law of consistency and how motivation and discipline work together when it comes to growth. So until we meet again, John, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Remember, everybody, be powerful, but stay poised, just like a lion. Take care, everybody.